Tracy. So I haven't made a new video in a while. Neither have you. We've kind of fallen off the wagon about that for different reasons each. But you and I were having a conversation earlier about racism, basically. And I wanted to say some things to you that I was thinking maybe I would also like to say to some other people. And basically, the trouble with racism is that everyone knows it's bad, but no one thinks they are it, right? So the number of people in this country right now who are avowedly racist, there's very few of them. They exist, and they're quite vocal, but there's not many of them. Most people who are racist don't think they're racist. Even if they're quite racist, they don't think they are. And why is this? Well, it's because they are deluded. They are completely out of touch with the reality of the situation, because it is very pleasant to think that you're a good person. It's definitely preferable to view oneself as a good person rather than viewing oneself as a bad person. We would all like to think we're good people. And so we decide that whatever it is that we are must be good. And therefore, if there's anything bad, we decide that we are not that, even if we are. So the trouble with racism is that nobody wants to sit down, look themselves in the eye, and say, listen, you're kind of racist. You're kind of racist, and it's a problem. You need to stop. Because to do so would be to sit down with oneself and be like, listen, you're a terrible human being, and you need to do something about that. Nobody wants to have that conversations with themselves. But we all have to do it. If not for our racism, if racism is not a struggle that you're dealing with, then with something, because everybody's a terrible person in some way or another, and we all just have to own up to it and, hopefully learn to not. And so this video is just going to be just a quick lesson on just the things that you need to do in order to admit that you're racist so that you can stop. And the first step of not being racist anymore is coming to terms with the fact that you are racist, which means mourning the death of your sweet delusion of being a good person. And it's a difficult grieving process. It's time consuming and painful, which is why most people don't bother. But like all grieving processes, it goes through your 5 basic stages, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I forgot to hold my fingers up, but there's 5 of them. So most people, if they've even bothered thinking about it, which I think most people have, I'd like to think most people have at least asked themselves, am I racist? And said no, all right? I'd like to think that. So most people are going to be in denial, I think, is my general impression. And most people are going to say, I do these things, but I'm not racist because I'm a good person, definitely good person. Um, and if I do these things and they're hurtful to someone, well, then they misunderstood me because obviously I'm a good person. I'm not racist. Um, this is your kind of suburban soccer mom racism. This is your kind of hipster college student racism where, like, I have black friends. I'm not racist. Uh, I think a lot of people are stuck in this stage. And maybe at some point they're going to get called out. At some point they're going to say something offensive or do something offensive. And someone's going to tell them, hey there, dude, that was out of line. That's not acceptable, and that's a racist thing to do, which makes sense because you're racist. And about that time, if they're not still in denial, if they don't just completely dismiss that out of hand, they might transition thence into anger and even blaming other people for telling them that they're deluded in thinking they're a good person. So the anger is going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to go, so basically we have two different ways that you can get confronted with your racism. Fundamentally, you can either be told by a fellow white person, or you can be told by a person of color. Black person, Mexican person, Asian person, somebody. And if you get told by a white person, what you're going to do is you're going to say, how dare you say such a thing to me? How dare you imply that I'm not a wonderful person? As if you would know, as if you're any better than I am because you're also white. Which now everybody's angry. Or, coming from this direction, you can be told by a person of color, hey, listen, you did that thing, and it was really hurtful because it's racist. In which case, you will get angry at them for, how dare you be offended at me, because I'm just exercising my right to say whatever I want and do whatever I want, and act however I want. This is America, and I am allowed to be a jerk if I want to. Which is problematic, but already represents the acknowledgement of the death of the delusion. Because in order to use free speech as a justification for your racism, you already have to have deep down admitted to yourself that there's no better justification for your behavior than the fact that it's not explicitly illegal. That's the only excuse you've got anymore. And so a lot of people at this point in our history, I think, are stuck here in anger as well. They accuse people of color of playing the race card. They accuse white people who are pro-civil rights, anti-racist, of being, I don't know, liberal, brainwashed, hippie, Whole Foods, quinoa lovers, I don't know. Which we may well be, frankly. I honestly, I'm not that into quinoa, but that's not the point. Very few people get to stage number 3, which is bargaining, which basically at this stage you're just trying to think of what you can do to prove to yourself that you were never racist. This is the stage at which it kind of goes internal. You're not arguing with other people anymore about whether or not you're racist. You're just searching for some excuse for your racism other than the fact that you're a racist, basically. And this is going to look like, oh, that was just the culture of where I lived at the time, or oh, that's how I'm used to referring to people. Maybe this slur was not considered a slur when I was growing up, and so the fact that I still use it, it's not me trying to be offensive, because that's just the word I grew up using. Therefore, it's not offensive, and I'm not actually racist. And at this stage, you'll want to maybe befriend a few more people of color, which already this is progress. You'll want to befriend some people of color. You'll want to maybe get them to explain everything to you so that you can explain it to yourself in a way that makes you sound like a good person still, which is not at all fair to your people of color friends. It's not fair to them to have to spend so much of their lives explaining to you why you're kind of a dick. But a lot of them will do it. I don't know why they bother, quite frankly. I have several of these people in my life, and I am grateful, but I don't know why you bother, quite frankly. And then at some point you're going to get to stage 5, which is acceptance of, turns out I'm actually a little bit racist. Oh gosh, I'm a bad person. And it's uncomfortable. It's not fun to think of yourself as a bad person. It feels really weird in your tummy regions. But you have to get there. You really need to. Otherwise, you're just going to stay racist. So once you reach this stage, I have just a couple practical tips, because I like to think this is where I'm at. I have just a couple practical tips, and gosh, to honestly, to people of color watching this, like, these are so obvious. I'm ashamed to admit that I have to do this consciously in my mind. But just a couple tips on, once you've realized that you are racist, how to stop being racist. When there is a conflict between the dominant majority and the oppressed minority, just go ahead and assume the minority knows what they're talking about. From time to time, this may result in you being wrong and misinformed about the situation, just because that's the way conflict works sometimes. Sometimes you don't really know what happened until investigations have been carried out and things come to light that were not immediately apparent. But just as an exercise in not being racist anymore, just gotta go ahead and assume the minority is right. If they're wrong, it'll definitely come out that they're wrong at some point, and you can then change your mind. But just start off thinking that they're probably right. On a more personal sort of day-to-day note, take a conscious effort to, when you see a person of color, to think to yourself, that's probably a really nice person. They're probably a great person. They probably have a family that they're very fond of. They probably have a job that they work really hard at. I don't know, maybe they have a dog. Just think humanizing thoughts about minorities that you encounter in your daily excursions. So rather than, and I still do this, kind of unconsciously, like, holding your purse tighter when you pass by a minority on the street. Maybe say, oh, he's probably a really nice guy. And it's difficult, it's hard, because you've been conditioned. Well, first of all, you're a little bit racist, and second of all, you've been conditioned by, societal influences to think that your racism is justified and that this person is a threat. Don't. Just let it go. And try to think humanizing thoughts. Probably a really nice guy. Probably had, I don't know, maybe has kids. Definitely has a mom. Everybody's got a mom, biologically speaking. Think humanizing thoughts. Especially, I really love, God, this feels, I hate to admit this, but I really love seeing people of color, especially Black people, out with their families, because it makes it really easy for me to say, oh, look at their cute little family, that's so precious. I love them, I love their cute little family. I love them. Makes it really easy. So whenever you see a family of minority people, just really concentrate on how adorable they are and how glad you are that they exist and have each other and are probably having a great day. Yeah, it's really awkward to admit that I have to do that consciously. Still I have to do that consciously. I have been actively trying to not be racist anymore for like 5 years now. And I still have to focus on it, which is embarrassing, and I'm sorry. But that's what you gotta do. That's what I think a lot of us white people need to do. We need to stop using the fact that we have been socially conditioned to think one way as an excuse for thinking that way. So yeah, hope you enjoyed that. A little long, little heavy. A little long, little heavy, sorry. But I love you, bye.